I was about 45 years old when I told my boyfriend exactly what I thought about his behavior a couple of years after the fact. And I was about 49 when I started to talk about a work experience and actually started to share the toxicity about what had happened in this job that from 20 years ago. And I was 50 when I just turned 50, when I realized that what everyone calls menopause symptoms might actually be the best thing that's ever happened to me. If you think menopause is just about hot flashes and mood swings, you need to hear this. Welcome back to Unmute with Priya. I'm Priya, your host, and today we're going to talk about the truth about menopause that nobody wants to tell you because it's too powerful, it's too revolutionary, and frankly, too threatening to the status quo. Before we get started, don't forget to click on the bell and subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to share it and keep coming back if you like this content. So we've been conditioned to see menopause as something to endure, to medicate, to hide. Think back to it. Think about when you're watching TV. I don't watch TV anymore. And we're literally getting programmed with all the commercials. So starting back when I was around 20, I started to think, oh boy, when that menopause time comes, it's gonna go to shit. I was preparing for the worst. I thought just hearing the people around me, my bones were gonna crumble because of osteoporosis, my skin was gonna turn saggy, I was just gonna gain a ridiculous amount of weight that I would never be able to lose, and also that I would never be able to put on muscle because I've passed that point of no return. Think about that, right? So it is not something just to medicate and hide. Yeah, there's things that we can take. There's really amazing practitioners that can help us, support us in this journey because there are physical changes that are happening. But what if I told you that menopause isn't the end of anything? It's the beginning of everything. What if the very changes happening in your brain and body are designed to help you find your voice, claim your power, and become the woman you are always meant to be, the woman that's inside of you already and has just never expressed herself? So let's talk about the menopause myths we've been sold. Right? It goes something around like this, and I shared this a little bit before. Around 50, we become moody and irrational. How many times do we go through life and if somebody is cranky, a woman is cranky, or a woman has just had a rough day, or the woman snaps at her partner, it's attributed, oh, she must be on her period. Think about how derogatory that is. Why can't we just have a bad day? Think about why can't we just express ourselves in the way that we just need to express ourselves in that moment? Why does it have to be attributed to our menstrual cycle? We're also been told that women are, around 50, women are difficult to be around. That we're past our prime. Yeah, nobody's going to want to be with you. Nobody's going to want to date you. Nobody's going to want to have sex with you. We're invisible and irrelevant. Crazy, emotional, unpredictable. And like I said before, things start to go downhill. That's what we've been fed. This narrative, it serves everyone except the woman going through it. And the more that I looked into this, the more that I realized the stuff that was being put out about menopause was being delivered by men. I wanted to see the information from women who had gone through it themselves. It keeps us quiet, apologetic, still saying sorry even before we have done anything, starting our sentence with sorry, and it keeps us small. It makes us think that something is wrong with us when we start speaking up, setting boundaries, or refusing to tolerate what we used to accept. But here's the truth of what's happening during menopause, and it's backed by science, not just by my opinion. Your brain is literally rewiring itself. So you've got this whole influx of hormones changing. I just recently had my checkup, had my labs checked. My FSH levels were out the roof. My testosterone levels were down here. My progesterone, everything was out of whack. And the doctor was so wonderful to explain what exactly was happening in my body and how that would manifest. Yeah, I go to the gym, I eat healthy, I feel like I am doing all the right things, but what's causing the sluggishness? What's causing the weight gain, even though I am doing all the things to keep myself to the weight that I feel good in, right? So as estrogen levels change, the connections between the emotional and the rational parts of your brain shift. You become less willing to suppress your authentic self, your feelings. It's like, everything up until 50, you've bottled it in, you've kept it inside, and then you just enter this portal. I like to see it as a portal into this new, like your second act of life. And all of a sudden it's like, everything comes out of you. Another thing that happens as a result of this time period is you're less willing to prioritize others' comfort over your own truth. And, as you're 50, you're starting to see, oh, wait a second, I've wasted a lot of time. This was my experience. I've wasted a lot of time on this thing, being stuck in this place, sitting in the trauma of this event. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, I got a limited amount of time left. I could live another 10 years. I could live another 40 years. I could live just till tomorrow, right? So with that finite time ahead of you becoming more real, you start asking yourself, what matters? What doesn't? What am I willing to accept? And what am I done tolerating? I had a really good mentor, Todd Campbell. He said this to me. I'd gone to one of his personal development events, and he said, your life is what you tolerate. Boom, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was just like, oh my gosh. This is the bull crap that I've been tolerating in my life. And from that point on, I started to ask myself, what am I done tolerating? So these are, I'm going to talk about this some more, but as I was in this perimenopausal period, I was so connected to the physical things happening in my body. I so wanted children. That's another topic. And yet I found my periods were becoming more irregular. It started to make me so fearful, like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to have kids. That regularity of having my period every single month gave me the hope that, yes, this is still possible. And then when I started to skip 3 months, that fear came in like, uh-oh, this time is over. This time is over. And without kids, I started to think, what am I here to do? What am I going to do? This is something that I've dreamt about since I was 5. So it's not just the physical. Yeah, I went through a period of time where I felt like my body was having a period, but yet I wasn't. So that's just the physical part of it. Let's talk a little bit more about the emotional part. You start to not give a damn. And thank God for that. The part of you that used to worry constantly about what others think, that starts to quiet down. And the part that needs everyone's approval, guess what? She starts packing her bags and saying, I'm out of here. So let's talk about the voice that you've been suppressing. As some of you may know, I'm a speech and language pathologist by training. I spent 20 years in the field helping children and adults who had neurogenic disorders or stroke find their voice. I was so good at it. I could work with a child who was nonverbal, and within that first session, I was getting them to at least sign or say the word more, brought their voice out. I could see where it was stuck. But let's talk about our own voices as women who are going through this period of life, this transition. For most of our adult lives, we've been walking around with 2 voices. At least this was my experience, and this might resonate with you. Voice 1, the acceptable voice. The voice that says, okay, whatever you think is best. I don't want to be difficult. Sorry for bothering you, but I'm probably wrong, but... and then when I say something that makes sense, I ask for validation. Does that make sense? That's the acceptable voice. Now let's talk about the real voice. That real voice is the voice that knows when something isn't fair. Our intuitive body system, our gut tells us, oh, I don't like the way you just treated me just now. I don't like the way you just dismissed me right now. It tells us, it signals to us. That's part of our voice, our spoken voice, and then our internal voice. It also knows when you're being taken advantage of. You might know as you connect to your body, you might know that your body starts to tighten up. For me, I get a stomach ache. And I start to get a heaviness in my chest. I even feel like something's stuck in my throat. My body's telling me when I'm being taken advantage of. Voice also tells you when a decision is stupid. Nope, not doing that. When someone's treating you poorly, when you deserve better. That's the real voice. That's the real voice that knows. So for decades, from my experience, voice 1 was the one that was running the show. And voice 2 was locked away, too dangerous, too much, too risky, didn't do things according to the culture, pushed boundaries, and that was just wrong. Voice 1 was part of my first act. Voice 2 is my second act. I wouldn't be here standing in front of a camera, putting this on YouTube and not knowing who's going to watch it without activating that voice 2. So menopause, let's rope it back into menopause. It's like a master key. It unlocks the door to voice 2. And it says, hey, your time is now. And suddenly what you might find during this time, you might find yourself saying things like, actually, I disagree. Yeah, that doesn't work for me. Sorry, I'm not available. I've changed my mind. I need you to stop doing that. And no, I don't need to explain why. I just don't want to. That's what I've found. And some people around you are going to act like you've lost your mind. That was my experience. They're like, oh, well, you must be going through something hard. I did have a head injury in 2019, but when this started happening, it was not related to the head injury. The head injury was a catalyst for me going through this awakening. But because I was shifting and voice 2 was getting activated in me, they had to find a reason why I was actually speaking up for myself. So it must be because of the head injury. No, it was because Priya was finally speaking up and showing up the way that she's meant to be and the way that she's meant to be for the second act of her life. Let's just talk a little bit more about the science behind the transformation and some research that I found. So there's studies around neuroplasticity and that show that during perimenopause and menopause, our brains undergo significant reorganization. And so the areas that are responsible for people pleasing and conflict avoidance become less dominant, while the areas associated with self-advocacy and authenticity become more active. And there is an anthropologist named Helen Fisher, and she talks about how post-reproductive women in hunter-gatherer societies actually became the leaders, the decision makers, the one who spoke the truth to power. They were valued for their decisions, their directness, and their ability to see through nonsense. Think about that. This is during hunter-gatherer societies. And women who were post-reproductive women were honored for that voice 2 that maybe came out in them. They were valued. I'm going to repeat this sentence again. Valued for their wisdom, directness, and the ability to see through nonsense. Think about that. Imagine if, as women, we were collectively seen as that. A lot of things would change in society today. There's been research on confidence as well that shows that while younger women often struggle with imposter syndrome, we struggle, I'm going to talk from my perspective, severe insecurity and, I lacked self-confidence and it manifested in eating disorders. It was just, I was so not confident. I was so insecure. Yet women over 50 report feeling more confident in their abilities and more willing to take risks. Think about that. If you are connecting with this message and you're hitting that, you're perimenopause, entering menopause, maybe you're menopause and now you hit your day of 12 months without it and now you're postmenopausal. Think if you are feeling more confident. And if you're not, I'll talk later about some steps you can take towards that. Here's the kicker as I talk about this. Society has trained us to see these changes as problems instead of gifts. And when a 25-year-old woman is indecisive, we call her thoughtful. When a 50-year-old woman is decisive, we call her difficult. Or, bluntly put, a bitch. When a 30-year-old prioritizes everyone else's needs, we call her caring. When a 50-year-old prioritizes her own needs, we call her selfish. Do you see what's happening here? There's qualities, the very qualities that make us powerful, the clarity, the directness, the boundary setting, the truth telling, are all being made to be, they're being pathologized. So the question next is, how do you find yourself in the chaos? How do you navigate through this transformation? How do you find yourself when everything feels like it's changing? And believe me, it's all as if time speeds up and everything starts changing around you. First, stop apologizing for becoming who you really are. That directness that you're developing, that's not a flaw. That's efficiency. That unwillingness to tolerate nonsense, that's not being difficult. That's having standards. That tendency to speak your mind, that's not being inappropriate. That's being authentic and true to yourself. It's like when you get on an airplane and they say, in the event of an emergency, put your mask on first. Even before a baby. Even before an elderly person with you, put your mask on first. But yet in society, we're conditioned to put everybody else's masks on first. Then last, we can put our own. And by the time it's time to put our mask on, we're depleted. We're done. We're spent. And some of you might think, I've given up. Understand that this process can be uncomfortable, even to you. You've been rewarded for being accommodating. Now you're becoming unaccommodating. You're actually saying no. You're not responding right away to a text. Whereas before you would have been like, yeah, sure, I'll meet you for coffee. Drop everything for you. And it feels foreign. You might find yourself thinking, who am I? I never used to be like this. Here's the truth. Here's the kicker. You were always like this. You just weren't allowed to show it. Third, expect pushback and prepare for it. When you start using your real voice, people who benefited from your silence will not be happy. They'll say things like, oh, you've changed. Oh, I heard that all the time. You've changed. They were defining me. Oh, but that's you. That's you. You don't know who I am to even make a statement like that. They might say, you're not the same person I married. You're not the same person I got together with. You used to be so easygoing. You used to be so fun. What's gotten into you? I remember a situation where, my voice was it was so suppressed, and I came home, person was in my house, and it was just stifling because I didn't have the voice to say, I just need to be by myself. And there were tasks, there were duties in the house that weren't done, and I came home to feeling like I had a child in my house. And I was being pushed. My buttons were being pushed, and I blew up because I didn't know how to handle this. Rather than supporting me, I got, what's gotten into you? I got somebody sitting there laughing at me saying, oh my gosh, look at you right now. Look at you right now. All these things can happen. So if somebody does say you've changed, you're not the same person, you used to be so easygoing, what's gotten into you? Guess what you can say to them? Well, thank you for noticing. I appreciate that. Fourth, find your tribe. Connect with other women who are going through this transformation. They're out there. And if you're catching me on this, you found one person. You need people to understand that you're not having a breakdown. You're having a breakthrough. So let's talk about some practical steps to embrace your voice. Whether it's your actual spoken voice and what you're saying, or whether it's about expressing that internal fire that's within you. Small acts. Always start small. It doesn't have to be great, huge acts of anything. It could be small things. Like, you don't have to laugh at a joke when it's not funny. Oh, I used to do that all the time. I used to laugh at offensive jokes. Somebody would say something and I laughed at it and it was so offensive, potentially racist, and I laughed at it, that people-pleasing quality in me, just to be liked. Now I don't laugh, and now I'll actually say, yeah, that wasn't funny, that's just not cool. It's okay to say, I disagree, instead of staying silent. Yeah, no, I don't agree with that. Or, that's your perspective, that's not mine. Ask for what you want directly. So as I turned 50 this year, birthdays were an issue for me my whole life. And I never said what I wanted. And this year I said, yep, I want to go to this restaurant. This is what I want to do. I want to have a get together with friends. I said out loud what I wanted. And guess what? I got it. It was the best birthday I've ever had. And I celebrated it with the most amazing people in my life because I asked for it. I didn't expect them to read my mind. Stop over-explaining your decisions. You don't have to do that. It's a process of learning to be steady in your decision. You make a decision, you stick to it, and unwavering in that. It's a process and it's challenging. But if you make a decision, you don't have to explain yourself. If you decide you don't want to go out with your friends, you can just say, no, I'm staying home tonight. Thanks. It's okay. Practice the power of the period. Instead of saying, I think we should try a different approach if that's okay with everyone. What do you think? You could say, let's try a different approach. Period. End of sentence. Embrace being selfish. Strategic selfishness. Like I said, put your mask on first. Say no to the things that drain you. And prioritize your energy for what matters most to you. Use your experience as authority. You've lived through decades of experiences. It didn't register with me that, wow, I've lived through 5 decades. And my life, my experiences, my perspective has value. Stop prefacing your opinions with, I might be wrong, but. Own it. And set boundaries without guilt. Try, I'm not available for that. That doesn't work for me. I've decided not to do that anymore. You don't need to explain, justify, or apologize for protecting your peace. Now, as we put all of these things, I've shared a lot of information, but as we put all these things into effect, let's talk about the ripple effect that will happen. When you start living according to who you really are inside, you stop giving an F about what other people think. Guess what? Something magical happens. You give everyone around you permission to do the same. Your children will see that voices matter at any age. If you have young children, you're teaching them this. If you have older children, you're teaching them this. Your friends start speaking up too. Your workplace becomes more honest and direct. And your relationships become more genuine. You yourself become an amazing model for what's possible when women stop shrinking themselves to fit other people's comfort zones. And here's something beautiful. The world needs what midlife women have to offer. We have decades of experience, so much wisdom. We've got refined bullshit detectors, nothing left to prove, and everything to give. My experience is I'm not trying to impress anyone anymore. I work for myself, but if I were to go to a job interview, I'm not going to that job interview to impress them. I'm going to go as myself. If they don't like it, tough. I'm not going to put on this facade of changing my voice and changing my body posture just to impress them. If they can't see who I am at my soul, then they're not a good fit for me. Like I said, we're not trying to impress anyone anymore. We're trying to make a difference. And that makes us incredibly powerful. So let's talk, for these last few minutes about reframing the narrative. I want to leave you with this thought. What if menopause isn't something that happens to you, but something that happens for you? Think about that. Think if we, as a society, as all around the world, if women, joined hands in this and said, menopause isn't something that's happening to me. It's happening for me. It's happening for us. So we can all stand in our power. What are those hot flashes? Are your internal fire lighting up? I get hot flashes and woof, it's like a massive internal sauna that just turns on, and I've learned to move through it. I actually started to think, okay, this is my fire lighting up. Yeah, I'm not going to deny it can get unbearable at times, especially when you're sleeping. But let's use a reframe there. What if impatience with nonsense is your wisdom demanding to be heard? And what if that unwillingness to stay quiet is not that difficult person, but it's your real, true self, that internal voice that's finally breaking free, finally coming out of you? What if every uncomfortable symptom that you're having is your body's way of saying, old version of you is dying, real version is being born? What if menopause is not the end of your power, but it's the beginning of it? So if you're listening to this and you're in the midst of your transformation, whether you're 50, 40, 50, 60 or beyond, I want you to know you're not broken. You're not difficult, and you are not too much. You're becoming who you were always meant to be. Your voice matters. Your opinions have value. Your experience is wisdom. And your time for staying small is over. Claim it. It's over. Stop apologizing for taking up space. Stop making yourself smaller so others feel bigger. And stop hiding your light because it makes others uncomfortable. Don't dim your light for the benefit of someone else. The world needs your voice. Your family needs your authenticity. And you most of all, need your truth. So here's your homework. This week, I want you to speak up about something that matters to you. Use your real voice, not that accommodating voice. And notice how it feels. Notice the responses you get, and then do it again. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with another woman who needs to hear this message. Leave me a comment about how menopause has changed your voice, your confidence, or your life, or what you got out of this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it. This channel. Remember, you're not going through menopause. Menopause is going through you. It's burning away everything that is not authentically you and leaving behind the woman you were always meant to be. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.